Steam gunboat was a Royal Navy term for a class of small naval vessels used during the Second World War. The class consisted of 9 gunboats powered by steam, and built from 1940 to 1942 for the coastal forces of the Royal Navy. They were developed in parallel with the Fairmile D motor torpedo boats, specifically as a response to the need to hunt down German E-boats and also as a response to the scarcity of suitable diesel engines. While 60 were planned, only an initial batch of 9 were ordered on 8 November 1940, of which 7 were completed. Design: the steam gunboats were conceived to answer the seeming need for a craft which was large enough to put to sea in rough weather and which could operate both as a super gunboat and a torpedo carrier, combining the functions of the motor gunboat and motor torpedo boat in the same fashion as did the German E-boats. The Admiralty wanted Denny to produce a design that was suitable for prefabrication construction to enable large numbers to be built. They were the largest of the coastal forces vessels, and were the only ones to be built of steel. They resembled a miniature destroyer, and were perhaps the most graceful of all the craft produced during the Second World War. However, the comparatively large silhouette was a drawback, making them too easy a target for the faster German craft. They were 145 feet 8 in long and had a displacement of 172 tons. They were powered by 2 4,000-horsepower steam turbines using special flash boilers. These boilers proved to be particularly vulnerable to attack and, once the vessel had broken down, required a major effort to repair. Steam had the advantage of quietness but demanded a large hull. Large wooden hulls were not feasible for mass production, so steel was used. This meant hulls and machinery were beyond the scope of the small yards engaged in the rapid expansion of the coastal forces, and the Sgb thus competed for berths in yards already hard put to produce urgently required convoy escorts. Also, they competed in the demand for mild steel and steam power plants against the more urgently demanded destroyers. Accordingly, the planned 51 further vessels were never ordered, while the 2 units ordered from Thornycroft were never begun due to enemy action. The 7 vessels actually completed were built by Yarrow, Hawthorne, Leslie J. Samuel White and William Denny and Brothers, entering service by the middle of 1942. Fuel consumption was heavy, with the added disadvantage that, while a petrol boat could start from cold and get away immediately, the Sgb had to remain in steam. Over time, the addition of 18 mm protective plate over the sides of the boiler and engine rooms, together with the extra armament and crew, increased the displacement to 260 tons, and the service speed was consequentially reduced to 30 knots. Veritable battleships of the coastal forces, the steam gunboats were heavily armed and could maintain high speed in a seaway. In action, E-boat commanders respected the Sgbs almost as much as destroyers. Service: a lack of steel and turbines meant that the 52 boats initially planned was reduced to an order of 9 boats, which received the designations Sgb 1 to 9. Numbers Chapter 1 and 2 were cancelled when the hulls were badly damaged by an air raid on the Southampton area. The first Sgb Flotilla was formed at Portsmouth by mid-June 1942, under the command of Lieutenant Commander Peter Scott, son of the Antarctic explorer Captain Robert Scott, later a noted ornithologist, conservationist and broadcaster. The first fleet action took place in the Bay made ascent shortly after midnight on the 19th of June, when two vessels, Sgb 7 and 8, under the joint command of Lieutenant J.D. Ritchie, in company with the Hunt-class destroyer Albrighton, encountered several E-boats escorting two German merchantmen. Sgb 7 was sunk in this action. As a consequence, the Admiralty noted the vulnerability and refitted them with the additional armor over their engine and boiler rooms. At the same time, the 6 survivors were renamed after wildlife in the form Sgb Grey. Grey Owl was damaged in a fight with German armed trawlers off Bernville while escorting landing craft in the Jep raid August 1942. Boats. 9 vessels below were all ordered on the 8th of November 1940. These boats formed the first Sgb Flotilla, which was initially formed at Portsmouth, but later based at HMS Aggressive, New Haven, Sussex on the south coast of England. Sgb 5 was damaged in the Jep raid after meeting a German convoy of our boats. In 1944, the 6 survivors were all converted to fast minesweepers and all were sold off in the years after the war. Sgb 9 remained in service as a propulsion trials vessel from 1952 to 1956. Her steam engines replaced by Vospers with a pair of experimental Rolls-Royce RM60 marine gas turbines, and becoming the first vessel to rely solely on gas turbines for propulsion. The highly advanced turbines featured intercooled compressors and recuperators to boost turbine power output and reduce fuel consumption. Over the original steam machinery, the gas turbine power plant provided 35% more power while weighing 50% less and using 25% less space. Although the experimental power plant proved very successful, it was too complex and supporting technology too immature for wider service at the time, and Sgb 9 was placed in reserve at the end of the trials in 1957. With the experimental engines removed, Sgb 9 was sold off in 1958, becoming a mercantile repair hulk. Sold in 1984, the hulk was converted to a houseboat and renamed Ansarava. She is currently moored on the River Medway near Houston, Wilborough in Kent, England.